Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the Stryker Center here in the heart of the city of Williamsburg, and hope you all have a great meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to our chair.
Thank you, Mayor Pons. Good morning, everyone. I call to order the joint meeting of the Williamsburg James City County School Board, James City County Board of Supervisors, and Williamsburg City Council. Ms. Aller, please take the roll.
Dr. Cavazos.
Present.
Ms. Chen. Present. Mr. Hodges.
Present.
Mr. Mahose.
Here.
Mrs. Hunley. Here. Mr. Riffle.
Here.
Mrs. Donner.
Present.
We call to order this meeting of the James City County Board of Supervisors for the purpose of meeting with the City Council and School Board. Mr. Stevens, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Wainwright?
Here.
Ms. Knoll?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Here.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Here. May I have a motion to allow for the participation of Ms. Ruth Larson as remotely as a result of her need to be in Richmond today for VACO business?
Sure.
Motion, Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Wainwright?
Aye.
Ms. Knoll?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank
I'd like to call the Williamsburg City Council order. Ms. McKay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Williams. Here. Ms. Kern-Shear. Here. Ms. Ramsey. Here. Vice Mayor Dent.
Here.
Mayor Pons.
Here.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I want to welcome our two newest members. Welcome. And Mr. Hodges, welcome to your first joint meeting.
Thank you.
We're excited to cover a couple of topics. Both our superintendent will give a report, as well as we'll spend a bunch of time on the main event, which is talking about the budget that we were all going to. With that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Kiefer.
Good morning. I'm incredibly proud to serve as superintendent of Williamsburg James City County Schools. It's been my honor to be in this role both as interim and now as superintendent for just over a year. I started in earnest on February 1st, 2025. And frankly, I think this is the fourth or fifth time I've had an opportunity to present to this group in a joint meeting. Perhaps you feel like that's too many meetings as a group. I happen to enjoy the opportunity or the occasion to share information with these bodies. I think sometimes people wonder what a superintendent does. Does that person spend his or her time trying to irritate families, students, staff related to inclement weather days? In fact, no, that's not what we try to do. We try to make strong, safe decisions. What I get to spend my time doing is visiting with our staff, with our principals, and with our students. In fact, yesterday, I had a chance to spend the day at Matoka Elementary School with Ms. Corey Fielding, who's the health and PE teacher there. I was her assistant, basically, for a day. Spent time with kindergartners, first graders, and third graders as she worked to kick off the Kids Heart Challenge as a part of the American Heart Association's key work around helping our young people understand the importance of health and the importance of service and the importance of movement. In fact, today is Wear Red Day for American Heart Month and kind of keeping that at the forefront. Days like yesterday are absolutely my best days, the days that we get to see educators and students working together and learning. As we start the meeting this morning, I did want to share some of those key things with funding partners that I think are emblematic of the incredible work that's happening within our community relative to public education. So if I can get the technology to work, which I'm going to do right there. This slide provides an overview of the school division graduation rate and the school rates for the Federal Graduation Indicator, known as the FGI, and the cohort completion rate, or CCR. For additional context, the FGI is the percentage of students in the cohort who earned a Virginia Board of Education approved standard or advanced diploma within 4 years of entering high school as ninth grader. The FGI is now used to measure performance for students within the state's new School Performance and Support Framework. The CCR is calculated using the Federal Graduation Indicator, and you know in education there is a desire to use lots of letters. The CCR is calculated using the FGI plus Applied Studies diplomas, in addition to students earning their graduate education degree equivalency and students completing high school in 5 or more years. Looking at the data on the chart above, WJCC had 985 students in 2025, that cohort. Our FGI was 91.2, with 898 students in that cohort graduating in 4 years. The CCR was 96.9, with 954 students from the cohort graduating with an advanced, standard, or applied studies diploma or a GED. We share this information with you as we provide it to the board in December because we know how important it is for this body to be aware of our academic achievement. In addition, we wanted to share some information about our graduates with respect to the 3E readiness framework as prescribed by the Virginia Board of Education. The 3E readiness framework talks about enrollment, employment, and enlistment, and it is the desire of this school division to help ensure that every one of our students is prepared for life beyond high school. Data supporting the enrollment category of the E suggests that 209 of our students participated in dual enrollment courses, that students were enrolled in 2,817 advanced placement courses, some students taking multiple. 33 students were participants in the Governor's School, and there were 299 students who were enrolled in the Early College Scholars Program. Relative to employment, WJCC had 390 students that were CTE completers, Career and Technical Education completers. There were over 2,000 industry credentials earned. 155 of our students participated in the New Horizons program, and during the course of the year, we have worked to create 7 specific employment opportunities: manufacturing and trades days, mock interviews, senior hiring events, health career days, etc. In the world of enlistment, the final E of the 3E readiness framework, we look at opportunities for students who are interested in enlisting in the military, and more specifically, students who participated in the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Assessment, or the ASVAB. 107 students participated in the ASVAB, and 29 students have self-reported to us that they enlisted in a branch of the military after graduation. Beginning this year, 11th and 12th grade students will be taking, all of the 11th and 12th grade students will be taking the ASVAB, and we will move to a model where students who wish to participate in the future have that opportunity to do so. When we were together in October, we outlined some specific steps that we plan to take to address student achievement gaps between the localities. Those steps included new routines for analyzing and monitoring data, collecting additional information to further explain why the gaps are occurring, and work to help align more strategic responses. We intend to convene a community of practice, and we're examining the need for additional staffing. This morning, I wanted to give a quick overview of some of those things that have occurred since we discussed this in October. First, we enhanced our internal digital dashboard to include a locality filter, allowing school division staff to more quickly compare performance data on various measures. We also met with the principals of the 6 schools who primarily serve a majority of students who reside within the city to discuss progress monitoring strategies. We're also working with a consultant to conduct a resource mapping and evaluate our current practices. The consultant has conducted numerous interviews and data analysis and will be identifying opportunities for growth and next steps in the next month. Last month, we welcomed Dr. Patricia Pop from William & Mary's Project Hope as she facilitated professional learning for our school and division leaders on the unique needs of students who qualify for services under McKinney-Vento. We also heard from social workers from the school division, City of Williamsburg, and James City County, who did a great job of sharing the local resources and programs that are available to our families who are experiencing resource instability. And finally, we are in the process of scheduling a series of community practice sessions with City of Williamsburg liaisons to identify enhanced supports in the areas of student learning, well-being, and family community engagement. I look forward to sharing additional recommendations from the collaborative effort next school year. Literacy continues to be our top instructional priority. In alignment with the Virginia Literacy Act, we are supporting more than 1,900 elementary students and middle school students through individualized reading plans that use research-based interventions to target specific reading needs, especially for students with disabilities and for English learners. We are also promoting family and community engagement in literacy. Recently expanded our literacy resources on the division website to help families support reading and literacy efforts at home. These tools include information about the VALS screener, benchmark advance alignment to the Virginia Standards of Learning, and ways to contact reading specialists. All of these materials are available in both English and in Spanish. On February 4th, just this week, and I had a chance to go by, and it was terrific to see, we hosted a Title I family literacy event for 2nd and 3rd grade students, where 122 family members learned practical strategies to support reading at home and receive books to build home libraries. We're also going to host an elementary literacy volunteer training on February 20th. In fact, it was supposed to occur at the end of the month, and we had to push that back because of some inclement weather. You may or may not have noticed. As part of our commitment to transparency and accountability, we've updated our division's data dashboard to make student performance and progress easier for the public to follow. The dashboard now aligns directly with the KPIs or key performance indicators in our strategic plan, so families and staff and community partners can quickly see how we are advancing toward our goals. We're proud to share that 3 schools participated in the implementation of a new kindergarten orientation model last year: DJ Montague, Laurel Lane, and Norge. The model was implemented over the first 8 days of the school, 8 school days, and organized into 2 phases. In phase 1, which was 6 days, the student experience days, kindergarten students at the 3 schools engaged in daily learning activities that enabled the school to observe, assess, and become informed about the students' strengths and opportunities. Varying classroom settings and student groupings during the student experience days supported students to build relationships with peers and staff beyond the opportunities in the typical classroom. In essence, the students experienced a regular school day attending class, going to lunch and centers, without a permanent teacher assignment in those first few days. During the second phase of the orientation model, day 7 and 8, students did not attend school, and administrators and teachers and other school staff helped to make some very informed decisions for grouping and assigning students. Phase 2 concluded with an open house at each school so students and parents could meet their assigned teacher, visit the assigned classroom, and sign their contract to be a strong kindergarten student, as you see on the screen ahead of you. Following this experience, we will be bringing on 3 additional schools in 26-27. I'm pleased to share 2 exciting developments in the area of mathematics. First, our division has been awarded a $250,000 math innovation grant, which will allow us to expand innovative practices that strengthen numeracy skills. This investment supports professional learning that will assist teachers with utilizing hands-on learning, problem-solving strategies, and new instructional tools that will help students build strong mathematics foundations. In addition, we received a $60,000 middle school math acceleration grant. These funds will be used to support a summer bridge course designed specifically for newly identified students who qualify for accelerated math pathways. I hope that you have already taken advantage of an opportunity to register for this event. We are excited to share a screening of multiple choice in combination and in consultation with the College of William & Mary, the School of Ed. It's a free community screening of this documentary, which was developed by William & Mary alum Ted Dintersmith. Multiple choice follows the inspiring story of Winchester Public Schools and their work to reimagine high school by blending strong academic preparation with meaningful career-based learning. It highlights how students, not just a select group, benefit when schools create multiple pathways that connect learning to real careers and real purpose. The event is free, registration is open, doors open at 5 p.m., the program starts at 5:30. We hope that families and community members will attend this important event and lend their voice to the conversation. One of the areas that I am most proud to highlight today is our continued progress in elevating student voices across the division. Over the past year, we have been incredibly intentional about creating more authentic avenues for students to share their perspectives, influence decision-making, and help shape the culture in our schools. Our Superintendent Student Advisory Group continues to be a strong source of feedback, even when their ideas don't necessarily align with mine. These students bring real insight into what's happening in our schools, and their suggestions are actively shaping our work. We're also seeing more students speaking during public comment at school board meetings. We view that as a positive sign, students feeling empowered to engage directly in the process of their learning. Next week, we're going to launch a Student Voices Tour, where I and members of the leadership team will be visiting every school, K-12, with a diverse group of students to hear directly from them about their experience. What's working, what's not working, and how can we better support their learning. And in April, students will lead professional development sessions for our school division leaders. They propose the topics themselves, and it's a great opportunity for educators to learn from the people experiencing our classrooms every day. All of these efforts reflect a simple belief from my perspective, and that's when we listen to students and act on what they tell us, our schools get stronger. On April 18th, we're launching our Impact Through Service Day. This event grew out of our student leadership training last summer. Our student leaders said they wanted to do more in the community. It invites local nonprofits to host teams of high school students that morning for meaningful hands-on service projects. Our goal is to connect community organizations with the next generation of leaders. We have students who are eager to serve, and this is a great way for nonprofits to introduce students to their cause and see how youth energy and voice works. Another item that I'm particularly excited about is on April 23rd, we're launching our first Leadership Connect event, where local government leaders from the county, city, and school division will spend a day with our high school students to give them a firsthand look at how our local government operates. We've shared a flyer and registration link, and we're asking folks to let us know of their willingness to participate by February 13th so that we can then determine the number of students we are able to invite. The purpose of Leadership Connect is to give students real-world, hands-on learning experiences in local government and introduce them to the potential career pathways in public service and civic leadership. This slide highlights how we've continued to focus on behavior support across the division with a focus on early intervention and prevention. In November, a Family Academy was held to provide families with an online resource to better understand the code of conduct, the role of discipline, and how to access behavior and community supports. We've also added 3 early intervention behavior specialists supported by grant funding. They will work primarily at the elementary level, and their focus is to address student needs early to reduce escalation and improve long-term outcomes. In addition, our 4 elementary behavior teacher assistants were added for the remainder of the school year as temporary positions. You may see something later about that in our budget presentation. These positions provide direct classroom support and help maintain instructional continuity. We are working diligently to build strong community relationships to support students across the division and connect learning beyond the classroom. Through the Healthy Communities Action Team grant, we've partnered with local organizations to expand nutrition education, increase access to healthy foods, and offer paid credit-bearing internships for high school students. Our Special Education Advisory Committee and the ARC of Greater Williamsburg have teamed up to support students with disabilities as they transition beyond school. Community partnerships also create shared, meaningful experiences for our students. Education Day at William & Mary Athletics brought all of our 5th graders to a basketball game to build school spirit, community pride, and positive connections with higher education. It was an exciting day, and the videos online are pretty cool if you get a chance to check those out. In addition, we wanted to take an opportunity to thank the Walmart Distribution Center. 144 of our students earned bikes through our Read to Ride challenge by collectively reading more than 250,000 minutes. Families were invited to a special celebration where students received their bikes and helmets just before the holidays. Last week, Chair Donner and I had the opportunity to visit schools and announce our division-wide Employees of the Year. They're shown on the screen here. These visits are always a reminder of just how special our teachers and staff are. Their commitment, creativity, and care provide an extraordinary service to the students of our school division. We look forward to celebrating all of these outstanding individuals on May 6th at the Art Museum of Colonial Williamsburg for our annual Impact Awards. I'm also excited to share that Dr. Chantel Cook from Jamestown High School has been named Virginia's Assistant Principal of the Year by the Virginia Association of Secondary School Principals. This is a huge honor and a major accomplishment, and we're incredibly proud of the work that she does. For those watching, we are hiring. In fact, we're always hiring. The 26-27 school year is right on the horizon, and we are excited to begin the process of staffing. We have 2 upcoming events. On February 19th, we will host Alternative Pathways to Licensure Information Night for anyone interested in becoming a teacher through a non-traditional route. And then on Saturday, March the 7th, we'll hold our annual division job fair where candidates can meet principals and supervisors and learn about open positions. You may be interested to know about our redistricting process. With the opening of 2 Bright Beginnings pre-kindergarten buildings in the fall of 2027, we need to go through a redistricting process. As the pre-K programs move into their new buildings, some elementary schools will be left with vacant classroom space while other elementary schools continue to operate over capacity. As a result, we have an opportunity to consider the most efficient and effective way to utilize school division space and community resources at all levels. Following conversations with the school board over the last year, the redistricting steering committee is now hard at work, looking to review the resident forecast, consider guiding principles outlined by the board, and develop alternative attendance zone proposals. In May, we will engage the community around this work. Further reflection and refinement will take place over the summer and in advance of the October timeframe when we anticipate having final attendance zone recommendation for the school board. There's information available on our website, as you can see from the slide. And finally, we're making progress on many of the action steps that were outlined in the transition plan that I shared in December. My first update to the board and to the public is scheduled for April 1st. During that meeting, we will share the work that is already underway and outline priorities for phase 2. That concludes my report this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions or to take any comments.
Thank you, Dr. Keever, for that report.
I have
Yes,
one
Ms.
question.
Which one?
The documentary you're doing, where is that going to be?
It's going to be at the School of Education in the Baker Woods room, William and Mary School of Education.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, but I'll just, a comment would be that I appreciate the report and how you've outlined how you're reaching students where they are. And while that may have been a common practice, highlighting it today is certainly impactful to me, and I think to residents of the city of Williamsburg. I think some parents and students have felt left out in the past, but I working with our local departments to understand who our students are and their needs goes a long way. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor Pons.
I had just one question, and is that you talked about that Leadership Connect program and a deadline of February the 13th, I think.
Yes, sir.
Is any email going out yet? Because I haven't seen one. That's what I was curious about.
Yes, sir. So we are focusing on department leaders, department heads, that type of civic connection, not necessarily to elected officials. Not that we don't value your leadership in the community, but we
I'm
want
not sure you really want us there.
we want you to be aware that we are doing this, and we appreciate your support on it.
Has that gone out to all of our employees? Okay, great.
The city and county staff have received information through the county administrator and the city manager, as well as the school division staff.
Okay, well, I think it's a great idea. I just was curious as to knowing a little bit more about the program, but
We look forward to giving you a report on the success of year 1.
Okay.
thank you.
Could you talk for a minute about, I was interested in this transitional program for the kindergartners, that early exposure, then followed by assignments to individual teachers.
Yes, sir.
How has that been evaluated by the school system, and what kind of reaction have you gotten from parents and kids?
That's a great question, Mr. McGlennon. We built the program initially based on principal feedback and the desire to help create stronger class balances within the kindergarten scenario. And there were a number of principals who wanted to get involved in it at the very beginning, and we decided we wanted to limit it to a tighter pilot group. So the three schools that signed on did most of the structuring for those days and most of the structuring for the program. Like with anything that's new, I think you learn things along the way. And we made a shift to do this late in the spring. And so one of the things that we heard from families as a result of surveys that we've done after the program concluded is that earlier notification is better. So we're working to share loud and proud now that that's our intent for next year in 6 schools. So we've surveyed the community, we surveyed staff, we've asked their perspective on things that worked and things that didn't work, and are taking that information and working with the 6 schools who'll be involved to continue to shape it. In general, we've been very pleased with the effort. We feel like what you see on paper oftentimes as you're placing students into classes, especially at kindergarten, may or may not be reflective of his or her strengths and weaknesses or opportunities to grow. And so creating more balanced classes from the beginning, I think, has been helpful to our schools.
Right. Thank you. As you know, with new programs, it's always critical to come back and say, well, so how do people feel it worked, and what kind of strengths and weaknesses did you discover on the way?
Let me give you another example. We initially programmed it for 8 days, a 6 student day experience, and then 2 days where the staff would spend time ensuring that the classes were appropriately balanced, and then students came back. We are downshifting that this year, for the 26-27 school year, so there'll be fewer student experience days, and we'll get students into the routine sooner. That was an outgrowth of our evaluation, communication with families, communication with staff. So we make mid-course corrections as necessary.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, so how many days is that now? This orientation?
I believe we are at 4 days now and 2 days of students. Am I right? Yep, 4 and 2.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can move on to the budget.
I couldn't be more excited. You ready to rock and roll? Okay. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the FY27 proposed budget. At its core, this proposal is about more than school operations. It's about strength, it's about stability, it's about long-term vitality of our community. Strong public schools are the bedrock of Williamsburg-James City County, driver of economic opportunity, a foundation for workforce readiness, and one of the most significant contributors to our shared quality of life. Our work through Elevate 28, which is the strategic plan, and the transition plan that we shared in December, reflects a clear aspiration. That's to be the premier school division in the Commonwealth of Virginia, not as a slogan, but as, in fact, a measurable standard of excellence that benefits our students, families, businesses, and the broader community that we serve. This proposed budget also reflects core leadership commitments that I've made in my tenure around being student-centered, collaborative, and strategic, and it's designed to translate those very specific values into responsible action in partnership with all of you. Over the last several months, this budget has been shaped by careful analysis, disciplined prioritization, and ongoing dialogue with the school board, always with an awareness of the broader fiscal environment facing both of the governing bodies. This is intentionally a budget of need, not a budget of want. We're aligning resources to the outcomes our community expects while exercising thoughtful stewardship of public funds. While enrollment has declined, student needs continue to grow in complexity, academically, behaviorally, and socially. At the same time, we face a highly competitive labor market and a sustained cost pressures in compensation, healthcare, and some of the required operations. These realities are not unique to WJCC, but they are critical to address if we are to remain a school division that attracts families, supports employees, and prepares the next generation of our regional workforce. For that reason, a central focus of this proposal is around human capital and positive culture. In a truly student-centered system striving to be premier, investments in educators and staff are investments in student achievement, community stability, and long-term economic strength. Just as importantly, this proposal reflects strategic fiscal discipline. We have identified savings, absorbed mandatory increases, and transitioned grant-funded positions where appropriate. There have been some difficult decisions along the way. Throughout this work, we've remained mindful that every dollar requested represents the trust of taxpayers and the shared responsibility we hold together. Ultimately, this budget is designed to advance student outcomes, strengthen our workforce, and sustain the long-term health of our community. Thanks for your continued partnership, your stewardship, and your shared commitment to the students. We look forward to walking you through the details this morning. As we present the proposed budget, we have continued to be guided by three key questions that anchor our work. How do our investments directly support student learning and well-being? Every decision in this budget is centered on what students need to succeed academically, socially, and emotionally. Second, how do we remain competitive in attracting and retaining the people who our students rely upon every single day? This budget reflects our commitment to supporting our staff and ensuring we can recruit and retain high-quality educators and employees. And in the third place, how do we steward public resources in a transparent, strategic, and sustainable way? We take seriously the trust placed in us by our community. These questions will frame our discussion as we walk through the budget. I'm pleased to be joined by Ms. Ewing, our Chief Financial Officer. Renee?
Thank you, Dr. Kiefer. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. This is an overview of the items we'll be reviewing this morning. We'll start with background information and enrollment, move to revenue outlook and compensation, review mandatory and essential operating increases, and then bring the full revenue expenditure picture together. First, the requirements that shape every school budget in Virginia. Virginia Code Section 22.1-92 requires the superintendent to prepare a needs-based budget for the next fiscal year, organized by major category set by the Board of Education. This budget has been developed over many months and in collaboration with our school community. We have followed our established process, including enrollment analysis, compensation and staffing reviews, and multiple work sessions with the school board. This proposal builds on those discussions and brings forward a balanced, student-centered proposal. We are thankful for both the leadership and financial support you've provided to our community and schools, and we look forward to our continued partnership throughout the budget development process. Enrollment is based on our September 30th student count each year. This is a historical look at our enrollment from fiscal year 2018 until now. Enrollment has been relatively stable over time, with a decline of 233 students this year versus last. Future Things projection for next year ranges from a low of 11,048 students to a high of 11,521. For budgeting purposes, we continue to use current year enrollment as we've done post-COVID. And as a reminder, these numbers do not include our pre-K student enrollment of 395. The Local Composite Index, or LCI, is the state's formula for determining each locality's ability to pay for public education. As the LCI increases, the state assumes the locality can contribute more and state funding decreases. Because WJCC serves 2 localities, we have 2 LCIs, one for Williamsburg and one for James City County. For the upcoming biennium, both LCIs have decreased, with Williamsburg moving from 0.7426 to 0.7264, and James City County from 0.5403 to 0.5319. Even with the change in our LCIs this year, both localities still maintain some of the highest LCIs in the region, which continues to limit how much state aid we receive. This makes our partnership with Williamsburg and James City County even more essential as we work to meet the needs of our students. Historically, Williamsburg's LCI trended at or near the maximum 0.8, easing only recently, while James City County's LCI has been more volatile over the years. This chart shows a comparison of our LCI with divisions here on the peninsula, as well as 3 of the larger Region 2 divisions on the south side. As you can see, Williamsburg and James City County have the highest LCI of any locality in our area. Unfortunately, that means fewer state dollars for our schools and an increased dependence on our local funding partners. The state revenue figures shown here are based on Governor Youngkin's proposed budget. As always, state funding is subject to change throughout the legislative process. Based on the current proposal, we are estimating an increase of approximately $4.6 million in state revenue. The budget includes the state's share of routine rebenchmarking of costs for all standards of quality and other direct aid programs. It also includes state funding for a 2% salary increase with an effective date of July 1st, 2026, and another 2% salary increase effective July 1st, 2027 for funded SOQ instructional and support positions. Funded SOQ instructional positions include teacher, school counselor, librarian, instructional aide, principal, and assistant principal positions funded to the SOQ staffing standards for each school division. Local revenue projections are based on the joint funding agreement adopted in October 2025. This results in a $6 million increase in fiscal '27. The school board may choose to request additional support above this baseline, but this served as our starting point for revenue planning. When you combine this amount with the increased state revenue of $4.6 million, total new revenue is approximately $10.6 million. As this chart shows, nearly 60% of our operating revenue comes from the city of Williamsburg and James City County. We are grateful for your continued support and investment you make in our schools each year. Your partnership is essential to sustaining the programs, services, and staffing our students depend on.
Elevate 28 remains central to our decision-making as we are developing the budget. Every investment included in this proposed plan connects directly to the priorities and performance indicators outlined in Elevate. This budget is one of the most important tools we have for ensuring our goals translate into day-to-day supports for students and staff. In addition to being fully aligned with our strategic plan, this proposed spending plan also supports the priority action steps identified in the transition plan that I released in the late fall. Each major investment advances these actions and goals of Elevate 28, keeping our resources aligned with the priorities that matter most.
Before considering new initiatives, we must first account for required increases. These include our commitment to the New Horizons program, workers' comp and general liability insurance costs, and instructional and operational contractual services, shared services with James City County, and utilities. These essential commitments total $1.4 million. Across the presentation, you will see icons that indicate how each budget item aligns with the division's strategic priorities outlined in Elevate 28.
As she's advancing the slide, I will tell you that the number underneath the screen is $493,000 for New Horizons. It's in board docs, you can't see it. It's in essence behind the inset screen on the top right-hand corner. I just wanted to be sure that you knew that it was not a zero. There's a number there. Oh, this is me. Thank you. I get all thrown off when I go off script. Thank you, Renee. Back to script. Before we review funding for compensation and benefits, I do want to briefly connect this next part of the budget to our human capital and positive culture supporting priority in the strategic plan. This particular,
Superintendent and Madam Chair, I wonder if I could just ask a question about the process going forward this morning.
Sure.
Do you want us to just hold questions until the end, or can we, if there's a clarifying question or something of that kind, would it make sense to just stop and ask at that point?
I would defer to your judgment and wisdom.
Okay, thank you. You made me sorry about that.
I've got all day. Are there questions that you want to go back and pick up?
Later today.
You want to go back and pick up a question?
No, I think I'm ready to move ahead.
Yes, sir. To measure our progress in Elevate to 28, there are key performance indicators around recruitment, retention, compensation, supportive work environment, professional learning. These investments we'll review next are designed to directly support these priorities.
The state includes funding for a 2% salary increase, but that support applies only to SOQ funded positions. For our division, each 1% salary increase costs approximately $1.3 million across all employees. So while the state provides its share for SOQ positions, about $915,000, for a 2% increase, we must cover the remaining cost of $1.7 million locally to ensure the increase is provided to all employees. Compensation remains one of the most significant components of the budget. During the 24-25 school year, the division engaged Bolton Rewards to conduct a comprehensive compensation study. We continue to move through the multi-year implementation of the recommendations. This slide is a reminder of the projected costs provided by Bolton last year. Please note that the cost estimates shown exclude benefits and assumes full implementation within a single year. Fiscal year 26 was the first year of a phased approach to implement the recommendations of the study. Actions included targeted increases above 3% for select teacher steps identified as under market, implementation of a unified pay scale, and equity adjustments for support employees in grades 1 through 7. Total cost in year one was $2.4 million. We estimate the cost to implement the remaining recommendations to be $6.8 million across both the instructional and unified scales. That breaks down into approximately $3.4 million in year two and $3.4 million in year three.
We want to share with you some of the results from the benchmarking survey specifically related to teachers. This is from the 24-25 study, but as you look at the information across our scales, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, you can see where WJCC was underperforming relative to peers in terms of salary. And you'll note that there's a range there from 2.7% to 8.4%. This data is not reflective of the strong work that we did last year, and we're going to show you some additional information shortly that indicates how we continue to make up ground. As we are considering issues related to instructional pay, I think it is important to look closely at the data in terms of teacher turnover rates. You'll note that in FY 21 and 22, we were under 100 teachers that we turned over, and then that spiked up over 148 in 23, and we've leveled off. So last year there were 137 teachers that departed the division. And looking more closely at those 137 departures, 20 retired, 19 relocated, and 12 left K-12 education altogether. One of the key data points that jumped out to the administrative team and staff was that nearly 50% of the workforce that left us last year left within the first 10 years of service.
Can I just ask, can I interrupt and just ask the question about 137 is the number who left the school division. What was the total number of teachers that would have been there?
Our total is right around 995. Yes, sir. As we think about year two of the compensation study implementation, we are taking the base 2% salary increase from former Governor Youngkin's budget and then layering on top of that additional dollars relative to the compensation study. So the overall average increase that we're proposing on the bachelor's range would be 4.43%, and you'll note how that goes across. So the range is at the very bottom, 2% to 6.73 on the bachelor scale, following the same logic across. We're also doing a stronger effort at ensuring that there is progression between the steps of at least 1.25%. That had not been an area that we've been able to address recently, and we believe that a stronger step progression helps us in future years. I mentioned that we are seeing some forward momentum around how we compete with our regional peers. If we provide a 2% salary increase to those with a bachelor's degree, it would keep us fairly standard to where we are right now in terms of our regional ranking. When we add the additional compensation study dollars, you'll see some movement there in the 10 to 11 and 15 to 16 range, and those are those two of those critical ranges where we want to try to keep people in our workforce, of course.
And can I just ask again the question about how many of those peer schools were included in this? So we're fourth out of?
Fourth out of six.
And those peer schools?
Are generally those that we recruit against. York, Newport News, Hampton, New Kent, Gloucester, Poquoson. Yes, sir. This is where we see some strong movement with respect to a 2% raise and then layering the compensation study on top. You'll see that our current ranking for 25-26 in the far left-hand side, but if we are able to make the leap on the 2% plus, we move forward. This also assumes that our peer divisions are doing a 2% raise. So the other component to this that we're not able to program into this slide is what our neighboring school divisions will do.
At the time of the study, the analysis showed that a significant portion of our unified or support staff positions were paid below competitive market ranges. In fact, about 64% of our support staff fell below what the study identified as a competitive pay band. This slide shows how our current hourly rates for grade 1 on our unified scale, which includes custodians, cafeteria workers, and bus aides, compares to neighboring divisions. The blue bar represents current fiscal year 26 hourly rates, while the purple bar illustrates the impact of salary increases. Since we do not know what other divisions are providing for salary increases, we modeled what would happen if other divisions implemented a 2% increase as funded in the state budget, while we implement a 3.5% increase. Teacher assistants are essential for classroom support. This comparison shows our position relative to neighboring divisions, and the effect of other divisions give a 2% salary increase, and we provide a 3.5% salary increase. We currently have 2 tiers of teacher assistants, and neighboring divisions may have structures that are unique to their operations. So for this purpose, this shows the impact on staff at the minimum for each entity. Transportation is critical and bus drivers are in high demand. This slide shows how we compare regionally, and again, the effect of other divisions provide a 2% increase, and we provide a 3.5% increase on our ranking. WJCC currently ranks 3rd out of 6 with our closest competitors.
Another area that we believe needs some attention are the stipend program that we provide as a school division. Stipends are provided to staff members who work as department chairs, grade level leads, coach our students in athletic competitions, support them through drama and theater programs, and are with them during marching band competitions. Our stipends were adjusted in 2013 after an internal review. Stipends were then adjusted a decade later, and it was a 2.5% increase for all stipends. There was a plan in place to continue those adjustments. However, we have not been able to fiscally get that accomplished. We did utilize Bolton to do a similar look across our competitors in terms of our stipend program versus theirs, and there were some specific recommendations for us to make some adjustments. High school debate, middle school drama, high school cheerleading. There are a number of areas where we need to address our stipend program and be more competitive. We also wanted you to know the total number of employees who earn stipends. 421 receive academic stipends and 210 receive athletic stipends. There's a placeholder in our budget for $380,000 to address stipend competition or competitiveness. There's also a need to look at some pay supplements to key special education staff and the self-contained classroom setting. We are talking about a stipend adjustment for folks both at the teacher level and the teacher assistant level who work with our students most in need. So it's a self-contained specific stipend. We, in this spending plan, are also looking to increase the support that our related services positions provide our students. They are currently contracted for 7 hours. We are recommending that go to 8 hours. Speech language pathologists, OTs, PTs, psychologists, school social workers. There are a total of 48 FTEs in those job categories, and the cost to take that from 7 to 8 hours in terms of the contract is $640,000. I will say before we transition from the slide that a vast majority of these 2 recommendations are designed specifically to support our students with special needs. The job categories and job classifications of these particular employees really spend a balance and focus of their time with students with disabilities.
Moving to health insurance, this chart shows our health insurance rate increases over the past decade. Through 2024, these figures reflect our experience under the Local Choice or TLC health insurance program, which we participated in through last fiscal year. Beginning in the current fiscal year, we transitioned to a self-funded health insurance model, which positions the division to have greater control over plan design, cost management, and long-term sustainability.
So on that particular, sorry again, slide, so it does show a positive movement, and I guess I'm wondering, is that something that you anticipate moving forward, that this has produced a more cost-effective system?
No, you would hope. We would hope. The renewal rate increase that we have been advised to program into our budget for fiscal '27 is 16%. And you're gonna see that reflected in the next set of slides. That's a projection. We're 3.5, 4 months into the new plan year. So we are still getting modeling data, but I will say that our transition from the local choice to our new provider is allowing us to actually get data. And that data allows us to then make course corrections and make changes to some of the things that we offer and the way that we offer them.
Our health insurance plan year just began on October 1st, so we are still fairly early in the plan year and have only a limited amount of claims data to review. Even with that limited data, our insurance consultant is currently projecting a 16% increase for next year. This table shows what that increase would mean for the division under different cost-sharing scenarios. Under a 70-30 split, the projected increase results in approximately $2.7 million in additional costs, with about $2 million allocated to the operating fund.
We continue to want to figure out ways to create a strong healthcare program for our staff, but also look to save costs. We've had discussion at the leadership level and with the board about the possibility of eliminating GLP-1 prescription coverage for weight loss. We have talked specifically about incentivizing health screening practices for early detection. We are modeling what it would entail to increase our spousal surcharge. More than anything, we want to emphasize that wellness initiatives through a wellness leadership committee and education around the importance of health and well-being will, in our opinion, help us lower our healthcare costs. Healthier workforce, hopefully less money going to healthcare. The compensation information is the single largest investment. And I wonder if I can move that. I'm going to try to move the top right-hand corner, and I apologize in advance if it goes somewhere else.
A little tinier one.
Thank you, that helps.
It's almost like a reveal. Right? So what is under that box?
I'm so excited.
We are projecting teacher and instructional scale increases with a base 2% and layering on the comp study with an average of 4.5 to 5 at $4.4 million. The unified scale increase is 1.6 or 1.7 million. There are stipend adjustments, contract day changes, the special education self-contained supplements and special education related services, about 1.2 million. There are tutoring funds that we want to have available for our staff who spend time with our students after school. Those funds are expiring, and we intend to bring that cost into the operating budget. And then finally, the health insurance increase in the operating budget would be about $2 million. All told, 10.2 is what we believe is the number for compensation benefits. There are also some positions that we feel, I'm sorry, let me change it, Renee, my bad. Try again. There you go. There are some positions that we feel like need to transition from federal grant programs into the operating budget. Special education teachers would be transitioning from grant. There are central support staff members who are grant funded that need to be transitioned to the operating budget. Speech language pathologists as well. The bus drivers that you see on the screen, those 7, you may remember that last year through the budgeting process, we removed 19 bus driver FTEs from our budget to help us balance. Those FTEs were removed because we were struggling to fill those positions. Based on the increase in wage, we have done a stronger job of filling bus driver roles, and we have added 7 positions back in through temporary funding this year and are maintaining those 7 positions in our operating budget for next year. So those are not new people or new positions. They're just positions that are transitioning from temporary status into the operating budget. During the course of the transition plan, I received feedback from students, families, staff, and the community that helped shape the plan. And the themes were fairly consistent. There was a desire for increased real-world and student-centered learning, a focus on employee support and retention, addressing student behavior and school climate, focusing on operations, logistics, and facilities. What you'll see next are some of those very things: student supports, K-12 college and career readiness planning, additional supports for talent development and student behavior, JROTC program, consulting services for us to develop a profile of a learner, and funding for high school lacrosse and middle school athletic trainers. These resources directly align, or these resource requests directly align with the engagement we had in the community over the transition process. There are some new positions, brand new to WJCC, gifted resource teacher. The elementary teacher assistants for behavior support would be considered new. We are able to fund 4 of those now through temporary funding. We are not necessarily able to sustain that going into next year's operating budget unless we add those in. The 2 school security officers that you see listed there are potential staffing needs for fiscal 28. I shouldn't say potential. We'll need 2 school security officers in fiscal 28 to support Bright Beginnings. We're recommending bringing those into the operating budget in 27 to lessen the impact in 28 as we transition into the 2 new Bright Beginnings campuses. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Heaver, can you just clarify the little icons, what each of those apply to? I think I missed that. The star and then the little house and the...
Directly ties back into our strategic plan initiative. So the one on the right of the top line is safety and security. The one on the left is academic achievement. Okay. And then the next one down is related to school safety and supports, organizational efficiency, and academic achievement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. There's an elementary math coach that is necessary for us to be able to support our 9 elementary schools in year 2 of an implementation of a new curriculum, as well as the desire to bring on a social worker to help us with wraparound supports for our students. And then we continue to lag behind in terms of central support staffing to provide key resources to our employees to help them maintain a desire to remain with us as an organization. You'll see those as new positions as well. Additionally, the board and the community have voiced strong support for our JROTC program. What you see in front of you are the potential cost implications depending upon the branch of service. I think it's important to note that there are 2 types of JROTC programs that are available. One is the cost share model, where the branch of the service splits the cost with the local school division. The other is a cadet option, which is fully locally funded. The cost share model is one that requires persistence and willingness to remain on a wait list until your number is called. The cadet option allows for localities that are interested to get involved sooner by way of funding the entire amount. Additionally, over the course of the last 13 months, there has been a desire for WJCC to authorize lacrosse as an interscholastic sport. Right now, it's a club sport that's played across our 3 high schools. We anticipate that an initial investment in lacrosse would come with about a $225,000 price tag. The ongoing cost for that would be approximately $70,000. Neither of the dollar amounts that we are providing to you include right now potential transportation costs.
This slide brings together the remaining programmatic investments included in the budget, along with JROTC and lacrosse. This slide reflects investments in Teachers for Tomorrow interns, additional middle school athletic trainers, world languages, talent development, organizational development, and communications. Altogether, these items total just over $1.2 million. This slide shows the reductions in savings we identified for fiscal 27. In total, we are projecting about $2.2 million in savings through attrition, a lower BRS rate, the reduction of 1 teaching position, and targeted departmental reductions. These savings have offset cost and reduced the overall funding gap. As part of our annual process, departments submit requests arising from identified needs. Approximately $5 million in needs were not included in the proposed budget, most left over as requests during the fiscal year 26 budget process. These include additional FTEs, stipend enhancements, contractual day changes, and the remaining year of the Bolton compensation study. Summarizing revenue and expenditures, total new revenue is projected at $10.6 million. However, expenditure needs total approximately 12.6 million, leaving a gap of approximately 1.92 million. This is the amount that would require an above baseline request to our localities, which could be reduced if we receive additional funding from the state.
There'd likely be some questions about what would be included in that above the baseline request. And these are the items that administration has provided to the school board for consideration in terms of what would go into that request. Of note, the special education related services hours, we have downshifted that from an 8-hour contract to a 7.5-hour contract, with savings of approximately $320,000. All told, this would be the outline of, depending upon additional revenue from the state or additional revenue from the locality, that we would look to pick these things back into the operating budget. I think this is not listed in an order, this is not itemized, but it does give our funding partners a better understanding of where we would use the additional resources.
Instruction accounts for approximately 73% of our operating budget, demonstrating our core focus on classroom teaching and learning. The remaining categories support safety, operations, transportation, technology, health, and administration. And as you can see by this graph, approximately 87% of our operating expenditures are spent on people, salaries and benefits for our dedicated staff.
As we close this morning, I want to bring us back to where every budget conversation really should begin and end, and that's our students. The faces you see on the screen represent every learner in our school division, each with unique strengths, needs, and aspirations. They are the reason that this work matters. They are the reason that every decision in this proposal was made. The proposed budget is not, from my perspective, numbers on a page. It's about creating the conditions for students to learn, for students to belong, and for students to thrive, supported by talented, dedicated staff who work tireless hours. This is it's a challenge because we are aware of the pushes and pulls for our funding partners. I want to return to a simple but important truth. The strength of a community and the strength of its public schools are inseparable. The investments outlined in this proposal are not about school operations. They're about preparing our next generation of the workforce, sustaining the quality of life and businesses to our region, and ensuring that Williamsburg and James City County remain places where opportunity is real and that futures are bright. I recognize that each of you carries many responsibilities and there are competing priorities. This is why this proposal reflects, from our perspective, careful stewardship and disciplined choices. We're deeply grateful for your partnership and for your thoughtful consideration. And we are also grateful for your continued commitment to our young people. This concludes our presentation, and we are happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Keever.
Nobody else is gonna
Jump in there, John.
I had a couple of questions. One was when I asked the first question about whether we should ask questions along the way, it was really driven by the New Horizons contribution. And it was for clarification, just wanted to know whether there's a relationship between the funding that we provide to New Horizons and the number of students that are participating in the New Horizons programs, or whether it's based on some other metric.
It's student participation drives our funding.
But presumably, we can't adjust our participation in New Horizons based on just increasing funding, or can we?
We can, based on their ability to accept additional students within their programs. There are certain class limitations that New Horizons has related to lab space, related to classroom space, related to teachers. We have, I think 155 students that are participating this year. We lag a little bit behind Newport News, Hampton, and York in terms of participation numbers. We have additional students that would like to be able to participate, but it is sometimes challenging for us to get those seats. Part of the rationale that we have talked about as an organization around the need for our own Career and Technical Education Workforce Center, is so that we can serve a broader number of students, and the transportation scenarios of getting to New Horizons and back from New Horizons on a daily basis would then be eliminated.
Thanks very much about that, and I certainly think that we ought to be looking at other opportunities beyond New Horizons to provide that career and technical. So I applaud the school board's interest in looking in those directions, and hopefully we can figure out some additional ways to provide those opportunities. And I think you're talking about some of those things, right, in terms of the mentorship opportunities with civic leadership and so forth.
Absolutely, and I think going back to the multiple choice documentary screening on March the 2nd, that is a strong story about a community that came together and said, we need workforce training, career training for our students. How do we get that accomplished? And have their own very specific Winchester Public Schools Workforce Center. And I think that we would all benefit from learning from what occurred within that community and how might that be replicated in our own context here.
And I really want to thank Dr. Kiever and the school board for inviting us to participate in your Zoom meetings with our legislators. I think it allowed for an opportunity for us to demonstrate that after a couple of years of trying to figure out exactly what our relationships as local governments would be with the schools, and recognizing that we had an unprecedented partnership with the school board and our two local governments, general purpose governments, in developing that arrangement, we sent a clear message to the legislators that we are committed to moving together strongly and to accomplish good things. I note that the turnover is pretty high. I don't know how it stacks up regionally or across the Commonwealth, but it looked like about 14% in the last couple of years of turnover. And I wondered, and that made me wonder about, as we're looking at a significant change in compensation and some important adjustments in other programs and directions in your Elevate framework, what would we expect to see in terms of metrics that would demonstrate the impact that funding is having on our student performance and the school system's general advancement?
That's a tough question to answer, Mr. McGlennon.
Yeah.
And I think that compensation is an important factor for retaining and attracting the workforce, but I don't think that's the only factor. I think that the culture within the organization, the culture within the building, the culture within departments is particularly important. So there are leadership components there in terms of how our leaders are working to create a synergistic effect within their buildings or within their offices and departments. I do believe that the stronger our workforce, the stronger the student performance. And I think that one of the challenges that not only do we have, but other school divisions have, is that the turnstile impact of folks coming in and out of the profession makes it difficult for the people, to develop a sustained expertise. So the stronger we are in terms of maintaining and retaining our staff, the more of an opportunity we have to build stronger classroom cultures, and I believe that student achievement follows that.
Right, I understand that in terms of the workforce and compensation, and
Right.
I think that's an important thing, and I would expect that we would see an improvement in retention that would correlate with being among the leaders of compensation regionally. But I guess I'm looking beyond that and at other metrics. So when we ask the community to support funding at a particular level,
Right.
What should they look to say, yes, we can see how that makes a difference?
Our students are graduating, our students are reading on grade level, our students are performing on standardized tests, though I don't believe that's the sole determinant in terms of student achievement, that we have opportunities for students to talk about their learning through exhibitions of learning. As an example, there's a science fair next week that's happening at Jamestown High School. Our young people can talk about what they learned and why it's important. I think all of that is evidentiary. I also believe that when we ask our community around and our families around their perception of our public schools, it's generally high. And so I think that's a return on investment as well. I'm not going to tell you that we'll be at 100% student achievement, because I'm not sure that 100% student achievement is the beacon that we ought to say, this is how we know that our investment is working.
I understand all that. Obviously, this is an extremely challenging and complicated way of looking at things, but I think it is something that people increasingly are looking to see, that especially in a community where I think we have very strong support for funding for education, and that it's not that I'm suggesting you're not doing something well, but that just thinking about things in terms of being able to demonstrate that those investments are making a difference, not paying off per se, but improving the quality of education and improving the quality of the community by virtue of that.
Well, I think that's why I would go back to the superintendent's report that I led off with. The idea that our students are graduating from high school, our students are participating in activities beyond the school day, our students are achieving, and then each of them in their own unique way with a unique path, we want to ensure that they have the access to be able to pursue those paths. So I really believe that there's some amazing work going on in our schools, and we'll continue to see that amazing work go on with our renewed partnership efforts.
I also think it's important for the citizens to understand that you make an investment today, you don't see a return next week, next year, right? It's the cumulative build. And so, for example, when we made the investment in K2 literacy about 3 or 4 years ago, as you're watching that cohort move through the system, that group is doing better on those later standardized tests around reading and math. We just made the investment in benchmarks 2 years ago, math this year, and so those still have to take root and move their way through the system. So I think there's also that understanding it's a long-term investment, and so as they should see the division continuing to move up on those key benchmarks, and I think also our scorecard that we have for the public view so that you don't have to go to the state and try to pull the numbers for yourself. That is something that we have to be transparent to the public of this is where we are and these are the rates and our improvements over time.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that I think we should be focusing on. It's the idea that it's not a one-off when we're looking at 1 year's budget impact. We're talking about as we look at your request for the compensation, that's not going to pay off in 1 year. It's going to be something that will pay off over time, hopefully. But being able to refer back and say, look, we made these investments and now we're seeing it being played out year after year is the kind of thing that I think would be critical to helping. I think all of us struggle with the idea of how do we communicate effectively with our constituencies about the kind of job that we're doing and the efforts that are being put out. And I think that's just something we all need to keep in mind. And so I'm wondering, again, not to necessarily say answer today, but keep in mind, what kind of metrics will demonstrate the ongoing achievement.
Pop in here for a second. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to hopefully understand and put a fine point on a couple things. One of them is that, I really am thrilled and glad to see that the implementation of year 2 of the compensation study and how the proposed budget by former Governor Youngkin and the increase under the the new operating agreement really does. You can see how that works in terms of really being able to bring the compensation up to where we want it to be and see that really map on well to the numbers that are reflected here. And I also just want to say that I really appreciate the clarity in what are the above and beyond 1.9 million, items. I think that us seeing that is actually really essential to say, okay, we have done work, almost to, Ms. Tyner's point, we have done work in the past that leads us here, that now we can say we can do the things with compensation that we've been trying to do, and now, moving forward, here's sort of the next things on the horizon, that if we had this additional 1.9 million, that you would all be able to kind of say, here are our priorities. But the X factor, right, in all of this that we don't know yet is this is all operating under former Governor Youngkin's proposed budget, and the numbers that spits out. Do we have a sense about when we might? And I'm looking over here at Mr. General Assembly, Mr. Randy Riffle. We have a sense of when we might have a clearer picture on what that X factor and what that variable is, because that obviously could have a positive impact for us in terms of what are the above and beyond request number that we're looking at.
I do not. I know that depending upon which superintendents I talk to, there are different theories on when we might have additional information from the General Assembly. I am incredibly hopeful that the dollar amount increases. We are making this presentation 5 weeks earlier than we've made it in years past. We've compressed our budgeting process as an organization to try to help set up our funding partners in a more effective manner. So I'm hopeful that at some juncture in the next month, we can come back and say, in fact, the number is this. That would be my goal.
And I appreciate that, and I just wanted to kind of bring that to the surface, that we are looking at this today, and I am so appreciative that we're looking at this today and actually trying to get ahead, I think, a little bit in terms of our thinking, and everybody having this conversation now, seeing that $1.9 million figure, but also recognizing that this is we're not at the final stage of the process here, and that there are things that we are paying attention to, and as Mr. McGlennon pointed out earlier, that we're talking at the state level and making having good conversations so that this isn't over by any means. So I think that just having this transparency and very much of a clear presentation on where we are today is only going to help benefit everybody moving forward, when perhaps things that are not within our control become a little bit more clear.
Sure.
Yes.
Just so that I can be succinct, I want to discuss a couple points about lacrosse. The topic of lacrosse becoming a VHSL sport in our division has been discussed for almost a decade. Been going over this for over almost a decade. More recently, there have been many conversations at our school board meetings related to this topic, and there has always been strong support to finalize the process to make an application to VHSL for lacrosse. It has been said that lacrosse was contingent upon the turfing of the playing surface of Cooley Field. This project frequently appears on the CPI list for the division, but never makes the final cut. Action taken today could change that pattern of events, and Cooley Field would receive funding for the turfing project. In addition, funds for a WJCC lacrosse program will need to be allocated, which has been estimated to be approximately $225,000. Of course, there are many other facets of the planning to initiate a sports program in the school division. Actually, Mr. Carroll, the interim superintendent of the Yorktown School Division, and Dr. Shannon Butler, who leads their athletic programs, have had conversations about lacrosse with their counterparts in WJCC in coordinating their efforts to become a unified lacrosse program. The message seems to be, who's going to go first? And it's proposed that WJCC take the leadership role in that endeavor. It is commendable that the current administration has made more progress towards the accomplishment of lacrosse becoming a VHSL sport than in the past. But moreover, it's extremely important to realize the turfing of Cooley Field isn't only for the benefit of lacrosse, but actually others would benefit from different programs utilizing the field. Thank you.
Answering Councilwoman Chair Kern's question, Budget Sunday is February 22nd. You can expect the House and Senate to be on time.
Budget Sunday.
Yes, Budget Sunday. It's a new thing.
I love it. Okay.
We're going to actually do it on time. So.
I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I think having this now in December gives us, as Ms. Kern-Shear says, greater opportunity to incorporate this request into our budgets. The items that are supported by the $1.9 million additional increase, are those what would be lost if we don't include that, or so those are the fringe wants? I mean, All right,
I hate
have
to use
you
the term,
identified?
I hate to use the term fringe. But those are the things that we would include in the operating budget if additional funding were available. The items that we provided to you today are not listed in order. They're listed in an effort to give you an example.
Well, we, obviously, council will consider this as we move forward, and hopefully there is additional funds from the state. But, as we spent 2 years going through the contract renegotiation, a priority of council was to increase our investment, and I think we did that by nearly 9% this year for FY '24 and forward. $200,000 is a lot of money. 10%, whatever it shakes out for us. We would hope that we can make that need, but things are tight.
We understand.
Yeah, you certainly drew attention to that, so I just wanted to make that observation. Thank you.
I'm not sure when to come in, when there's a time.
You put everything on you first. Go
Is
ahead.
now okay? And I apologize for the box that is obviously hiding some of the information. I just wondered, Dr. Keever, we've been at VACO. I could hear Vice Mayor Dent, I believe he said VML was also up in Richmond lobbying. And frankly, some of what we're hearing is quite concerning, especially the price tag with collective bargaining, and also the possible ability that we will lose as governing bodies, and you as well, to, if there is a dispute, that is something we may not be able to work out. That right may be taken away from us and given to another body. And it's got quite a high price tag. VACO had asked us to send that price tag to them for both the school system and for James City County. And frankly, it was a guesstimate on our part. And so I'm asking from you and from the school board. I know that, and I do also want to say thank you for allowing us to jump onto those calls with the legislators. What you're hearing from your lobbyist, if you could give just a brief update with that. And also, I know that you had talked in school liaison about a waiver that had to be done in, I think, 2006 or 2007. And so you were asking for that ability to be changed. And I just wondered if you could give a brief update on where you are, where your lobbyists are. And I'm assuming that your attorney, Stacey Haney, is acting as your lobbyist up here. Thank you.
I'm not certain that I would say that Ms. Haney is serving as the lobbyist on behalf of the school division. I think that she does lobby on behalf of VSBA. There's lobbying efforts on behalf of the Superintendent's Association as well. So I think that they're two separate entities. We don't have a contractual agreement with a specific lobbyist. I guess we could go back into the operating budget request and see if we can work that in. Kidding, of course, kidding. I have been encouraged by some of the discussion that I have heard related to additional funding at the state level. I have not heard information related to the waiver of the school start code. Let's see. I feel like we're still relatively early in the session, even though they've been in for 2.5 weeks or so. So I'm not displeased with the conversation around funding at this point.
Dr. Huber, I want to put a little footnote on that discussion about lobbying, because I want to remind our bodies of the fact that we did a couple of years ago actually agree that we would try to figure out a way to support a lobbyist for the schools to advocate at the state level. So maybe at some point we want to renew that discussion.
Thank you.
Other questions around the budget asks?
I can say one thing. Yesterday up at the VACO meeting up in Richmond, referring to what Ms. Larson said, some of the counties are putting in their numbers that they'll have to provide to have collective bargaining, and they are astronomical. I believe one northern county said $400 million a year.
Chesterfield.
In Chesterfield, that was Chesterfield. Yeah, so we've all been,
Additional.
Mr. Stevens has been asked to put those numbers into VACO so they can see what the ramifications are. Because I don't think people have any idea the cost to run something where you do have unions, non-unions, and I come from both sides. But I know it's very, very expensive. So that's something that we're gonna have to deal with. And just FYI, so it could be in the millions.
I think we appreciate that, and we have contemplated those same conversations as a board, as collective bargaining has come to us in various forms over the years, and the requests, and trying to understand, like, what does that mean, and how does that get funded if that is a direction in which we go. I think as a board, we are curious and watching what happens in Richmond during this session around collective bargaining, because that will kind of inform our budgets, our requests. We know that it would impact you all as well, and how does that shift things? So I think at this point, our posture is a bit of a advocate, watch, see, and understand what those implications are. Any more questions? Well, thank you so much, Ms. Ewing and Dr. Kiefer, for that presentation. And I hope is for the bodies, as we have mentioned in this forum, we are really trying to be really good partners, and so bring forward our budget earlier so that you're able to contemplate it in your bigger picture. It's something we're really committed to. Also continuing to share more of the academic profile of our students and where we are, and how those dollars that all of our citizens are putting into the school system, explaining where those dollars are going and how we are using them. So we continue to want input as to what you'd like to see in these meetings, but we're just very grateful to have this time and this engagement. Thank you so much. With this, I will adjourn the meeting of the Williamsburg-James City County School Board.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roll, please.
Ms. Wainwright? Ms. Knoll? Mr. Eisenhower? Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion from council to adjourn?
So I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, please.
Williams?